Hello, everybody. Welcome to this mini episode of Press Any Key this week. Burke and Nick, they went out in a blaze of glory. You know, they finally committed, and they went out. No, they're away. I think it's their birthdays this week, so they're out doing fun stuff. But with them not being here, everyone say hello to AJ from Genre Geeks, because
hello.
I think. Who else watched this movie? I don't know anyone else who watched this movie that I know personally.
Movie people, like movie podcasts, horror
that's all
fans.
I know. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I got to get somebody from one of those to do a podcast on this with.
There you go.
Okay.
That's the way it's got to be.
So this week we're talking about Barbarian, and we're just going to talk about Barbarian. There was some news that came out, but I'm going to really, it's whatever this week. Next week we'll be back, full setup in studio. So let's talk Barbarian though.
All right.
I was told do not go into this knowing absolutely nothing. Just take my word for it. It's awesome. We'll start non-spoiler, by the way.
Okay.
And I did, and I was absolutely blown away by how good this was.
What did you know? Were you 100% blind?
I wasn't 100% blind, because what happened was I had seen the trailer and I was like, okay, this looks like a home invasion movie type of thing. And then I was watching a review, a non-spoiler one, and they mentioned a certain aspect of the movie that I, in my wildest dreams, was like, this isn't even, I never even thought, judging by the marketing, that would even be a thing like this would be in this movie. So that was it. I shut it down after that. Anything that said Barbarian, any videos, reviews, articles, anything, I just ignored them all. And I was like, I need to see this. So I don't want to spoil what aspect of the movie it was until we're in the spoiler section. However, just know that I was like, what? Okay, I got to see this. So,
all right.
Yeah, and it was one of those movies that was so good that I didn't think about the actors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the
Well, there was one actor that I was. Well, actually, there were two actors, and it took me a second to adjust on them because I knew zero going into it. I didn't
really?
see it. I don't know how I managed to avoid the trailers. I saw horror movies leading up to this, like Nope and stuff, and not one trailer for this movie. I didn't know the director. I didn't know who was in it. I didn't know the plot. I didn't know anything. I went off strictly, hey, this movie's good. You should see it. I was like, okay, fine.
Interesting.
It was a ride.
Yeah, it definitely was a ride. So, you knowing absolutely nothing going into this movie, what did you hear that pushed you over the edge, though?
So, funny enough, like we mentioned, the people who saw this are the movie people. Just the movie people that I listened to kept saying it was good, and that's the only thing that I wanted. And I started a thing within the last couple years that I prefer going in as blind as I can. Like, I understand the point of marketing for some things. It's literally just I feel like for every movie I see, I'm not watching 5 other movies that are just as good or something, or if not better. So making the decision of who I'm going to give my time, like Mad Mark Movie Show talking about it, the Epic Films guys are talking about it, the Love of Cinema guys, I think we're talking about, like, all these different movie podcasts were talking about it, and they were just saying good. Like on their little promo for their episode, they're like, it's good. And I'm like, fine. And I love one of the reasons I love horror movies specifically as a genre is I feel like they have the most daring and original takes for movies. They're not bound by anything specific.
They can also pretty much do whatever they want.
Exactly. Completely unhinged. So I just went in with it.
It's one thing if it's not good storytelling, but if it's not good horror, then I won't enjoy it at all. You can have a movie with a bad story, but still be good horror, like Malignant, which I don't think has an amazing story, but I think it's a good horror movie. It's a fun time, and it has some wild premises, kind of like this movie. So
absolutely.
Let's talk about performances. What do you think of the cast overall? I know you said there was 2 actors, obviously.
So
that you don't want to spoil, and I
will not spoil.
Forgot that there was I heard that there was an actor in this movie that turned out to be in this movie, and I forgot they were in it until that moment. You know, it was one of those things. So
Yeah.
I like was so engaged with everything that was happening up until that point that I wasn't just sitting around waiting for him. Like the story and the setting totally sucked me in immediately.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about going in to anything blind is when you're watching it, you're doing a lot of work as you're watching because you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to get an idea of, okay, what is the tone for this movie? Should I be laughing? Should I be really scared? What should I be feeling? And then when people start popping up, you're like, oh, should that tell me a little bit about this tone? Should that tell me a little bit about what I should be
Yeah, it
experiencing and
was certainly
expecting?
like an informed experience at some parts where it was like, this
Hmm.
is what we're trying to do, but they did it really well. You know,
Exactly.
there's
Yeah.
a certain aspect of the film where, no pun intended, but the aspect ratio changes. I think
Uh
there's
huh.
two times where that happens. And when they do that, it plays with your expectations, you know? Like,
Hmm.
I don't want to give too much away, but basically, you literally see the movie in a different perspective. You start viewing it from a different angle, and it's cool storytelling because it's almost like they restart you every single time that they do
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? But then they catch you up.
Absolutely.
It's weird. It's this weird thing. Um, but yeah, performances all around are great. Storytelling is really solid because there's like the little subtle things too.
Yeah.
You know how good horror movies always do like the subtle things. It's really subtle storytelling. I feel like
Yeah.
you're really good at picking up on that shit, and I'm not. However, I felt this one, it came pretty easy to me. Like I was there to
It's
sit
yeah.
there and ingest it all as it came.
I mean, I love this era of horror that we're in now where it's I feel like every bit of horror nowadays in the last couple years, there's a little bit of a wink with it where they're touching a little bit on tropes, a little bit of like the people we've watched horror movies for, decades now, and everyone has the same kind of like yell at the screen complaints of just why didn't you I'll make up an example like why didn't you pick up the gun? Like why didn't you do this and that? Like there's so many things people yell at, and in this movie specifically, there are
Oh
moments where
fuck
it'll straight up
yeah.
cut in and be like, "Hey, this character's doing the thing that we're all would be screaming at otherwise for all the other times that they don't do this in horror
Actually,
movies."
it's funny you bring that up because in my theater, I would say there was probably like 30, 40 people in my theater. Like when I saw
That's
it
a
last
decent
night.
turnout. Mine
Yeah.
was dead, dude.
Yeah, I was surprised how many people came out. But well, this is its second week, right? So word
Maybe that or
travels, you know.
I saw it the week I saw Pearl. So was that last week or the week
Yeah, it was
before?
last week.
Okay.
So, um, but watching this with a crowd, there was a bunch of people who were just like, it was like old school going to the movies to see a horror movie, where people were like, "What are you doing?" Like in the scenes, like, "Come on!" Like everyone was so
That's so
engaged, like
awesome.
and like cracking. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a good time with a good audience. So everybody was clearly into it. You know what I mean?
That's the right kind of
Um,
audience for
what
that.
do you think about the scares? Because I thought the scares were good because it wasn't like super jump scary. It was a
Mhm.
lot of just like things just showing up in frame, and that was fucking horrifying enough.
So going in 100% blind, and it's not a spoiler, but once the plot completely reveals itself, you're pretty good into the movie. You're maybe I'm making like what would you say like 40 minutes, 30 40 minutes in before
Yeah,
like
you're
the
almost an
the
hour in
real
at that point.
reveal.
Yeah.
Sure. I wasn't I started actually relaxing myself because again, I didn't know what the tone was going to be. And I'm like, "Oh, maybe that's why everyone's praising this movie because it's the whole subvert your expectation movie where it's almost like it's like that bit from the Scream 5, where it's the bit with the kid who's in his house and it's making fun of the tropes where he opens the fridge, then he closes the fridge, you're expecting someone behind or whatever. The whole time you're like, "Oh, they're playing with that." That's more or less what I was feeling leading up to that part. Because every time something kind of spooky or scary happened, it was then justified with, air quote reality or something where I was like, "No, you're playing with your own expectations for this." So I started relaxing. So then when the movie pops off, I actually completely scared the crap out of me because I was
Wow.
not sure where this was going, and I wouldn't have been able to guess
I
where
felt
this
like as
movie was
soon as the
going.
plot started, I was on edge the entire time. There was
Dang.
also some scenes where the tension was absolutely unbearable. It's like, oh
Oh yeah.
my god, and then like nothing would pop out.
Mhm.
There's one sequence in this movie that is absolutely agonizing to sit through, like in a good way. And man, when it pays off, that's the first time in a while I've watched a movie like this. Like, oh shit, what's going on? Yo, like
it was intense. Like, yeah, those moments were big. And to me, my favorite kind of horror is the kind that has a sprinkling of realism to it. And actually, what's funny was when I was talking to Matt from the Mad Mark Movie Show, we were talking about how real type stuff is more terrifying than like spiritual, demons, ghosts kind of stuff. So the
yeah,
idea of you being in, this is not a spoiler, it's the premise of the film, being in an Airbnb, and what happens if like your closet door opens up? The door that you closed was opened in the morning when you woke up at this Airbnb. That to me is the exact most terrifying thing that I personally can experience, because you're writing your own movie in your head.
I'll never stay in an Airbnb again. I already made the choice like probably a year ago that I'm just done with Airbnb. But specifically, after watching this movie, I was like, I'm good. I don't need to stay there anywhere ever again. But yeah, I don't think I have too much more to cover on a non-spoiler front. I'll just say that I think this is excellent. I think that if you're into horror in any capacity, or if you have any interest, check it out, because it's good. It's really good, and I had a lot of fun. And
Completely
it's good
agree.
for like the Halloween season coming up too. So
Exactly. We're in a good time of original horror, and so definitely just go in blind if you can, because this is a good experience kind of movie.
Out of 10, what would you give it?
It probably a 8, 7.5 to 8.
Yeah, I'd give it like an 8.5.
That's really awesome.
Yeah,
That's really good.
that's a good score. I set the expectations high. Anyway,
For sure, dude.
let's do spoilers.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so spoilerific. What the fuck did I just watch? I was like, I had no idea which way the plot was gonna go.
What was in the trailer? Like, what did you know
They
when you
didn't
watched
tell
the trailer?
you anything about the subterranean mutants. Okay, they did
Oh,
not
that's awesome.
mention that at all. But I felt like the way that they slowly revealed how this whole plot is constructed and what went on at that house for the years, and like what was like left over from it, I felt the way that was revealed was super organic and not too exposition-y, but I mean, like, having a guy there who's like, I've lived here for 15 years and she's never, like,
That was
exactly.
a good bit.
That was wild too.
For sure. That's what got me too. Like, when you mentioned that, like, there was a moment that I audibly because there wasn't a lot of people in my theater, but I kept laughing because I feel like every time something scary happened, like a bit of something scary happened, there was a sense of levity, and then here's a whole nother level of awful, like of just darkness and scariness in the movie, where it's to me, her waking up middle of the night and then just seeing her door open, I'm like, that's terrifying. That is scary. And then the door closing in the background for the basement, and then the reveal of the basement at all, then the reveal of the hidden door. Every single reveal of a new layer
just got
was
worse.
horrifying. And then I audibly laughed after the horrible dungeon room.
I was just like, I just want to know what's happening. I just want to know. I just want to know what's going on, so like I can gauge how freaked out I have to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The part, okay, so for anyone who's joining us for spoilers, just to refresh your memory, the whole movie is set up like it's going to be the conflict between Pennywise and Discount Tessa Thompson.
That's messed up and accurate as crap. That's freaking spot on, dude.
And they are what's it called? They're booked. So I guess they really did just book that place. They just overbooked that place.
I love that, the mixture of this. It seems suspect. It happens.
But
it could happen.
Yeah, it's happened before. Sure, why not? So then they get in to this. So the first night's what? I guess he's having night terrors or nightmares.
Yeah,
but it seems as if he opened the door. Either way, he's just framed to be the antagonist, And then like, cause he's kind of a weirdo too. And I mean like the whole thing where he did, I guess the whole thing where like he went into the basement and he went into like, he went down, like when you hear him screaming from down the stairs in the tunnel,
Yeah.
all the way up until his demise. I was just like, oh shit. Okay. I really have no idea what's going on then. And like
Mhm.
when that lady, the mother, her name is,
Bro, that scared the freaking crap out of me. Like that really did make me have like my body convulsed, like my arms got in like tucked into themselves, and because they like you mentioned like with Pennywise, I feel like it's the perfect bit where that could have been the movie in and of itself. The idea of this dude, the whole time of this guy's like everything he does is like a red flag, but then there's the whole percentage chance of he could just be an awkward dude. And he's like in his own head, like the bit with
yeah,
him with the wine and the
yeah,
whole like I didn't want to pour you because then like when he poured the tea, we're all screaming at her, "Why don't drink that? Some stranger made you a friggin' drink out of line like out line of sight." It's the perfect bit for the movie in and of itself,
right,
and then
right.
it keeps building from there to when he's screaming in the basement. My mind, I'm like, this is clearly a trap. You know, the Max Payne or the Mad Max, that's bait. You know, meme
Yeah,
at that point.
that's bait,
So
pretty much.
it really got me.
Um, I was not expecting him to get his face absolutely destroyed like that
That's what I'm talking
by
about.
some
I'm
mutant
all about.
lady with absolutely the saggiest titties I've seen in my life.
Bro, Pennywise can't catch a break,
I
dude. Between
know.
this and Deadpool 2, it's just I'm worried he's friggin' typecasting himself to
um,
the comedic death in movies.
um, so that's like one layer of it. It's just like, okay, there's this weird freak of nature living in these tunnels underneath the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's revealed later on that through the change in the aspect ratio, because it turned into a 4:3 film with that, which I actually didn't mind. Like I
I
thought
liked
that
it.
was a nice touch. Um, that this was, they said like that the economy had pretty much collapsed, or they had inherited the worst economy. So the neighbor was moving because he wanted to get out of there before it got worse, or he wouldn't be, they didn't think they'd be able to sell the house the next year.
Yeah.
When I realized that, oh, he's a serial killer. That's what he is.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he said like I'm not going anywhere, I was like, yeah, because you're digging those tunnels, aren't you? And then when it went back to him in the house and you hear the lady screaming downstairs as he goes inside, I was
Yeah.
just like, yo, okay,
This
now,
is
okay,
dark.
this is some fucking history here. Because I thought he was still, I mean, he technically was. I thought he was still like actively like using the house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that would have made sense for sure. Like that was really I really loved that whole bit. Like you mentioned about the aspect ratio changing and stuff. It's immersive.
yeah,
It makes you feel. And plus, this movie also takes place in Detroit as well. Like that's a big part of it. Is that and there is like some real life stuff there about the whole housing situation over there where
yeah,
it's just run down. Like I loved. That was one of my favorite. That's when I knew this movie was going to be something really special because the opening scene takes place in the rain at night. You can't see the details into the other houses.
yeah,
She looks around like why are there no other porch lights? Terrifying already. The next morning you see what the houses look like in the daytime and I'm like how is this even more terrifying that you have this
yeah,
cute little Airbnb with the most like freaking Devil's Night looking run down graffiti torched houses. I'm like this is
exactly.
horrifying and then it plays in with the flashback reveal of homeboy who's like I'm not leaving.
Yeah, exactly. Because he was staying in his kill house.
Mhm.
Um. So, the whole idea that she only comes out at night. First of all,
Mhm.
when let's talk about the kills real quick, because there's not a
Sure.
lot, but I feel like they are very effective. First kill was Pennywise.
Yeah, which was that's a bar set right there.
Yeah. Second kill is they
Is
find
it
the
the
serial
bunk?
killer in the basement, right?
Oh, is that this yeah.
And then he shoots himself in the head.
Yeah, that's which is kind of tame, you know, compared
Yeah.
to
Compared to Bill Skarsgård getting his face smashed up against a rock
yeah.
over and over and over again.
Yeah,
Um
that's pretty hardcore.
then there was
I think it's the bum, right?
What? Yeah,
Is it
then
the
the
homeless
bump.
guy?
Yeah, then it's the
Then I'm
homeless guy. Yeah, the homeless guy. He gets his whole arm ripped off, which like
dude.
I
That
was
was
like,
some
what
Resident
is
Evil
going?
stuff,
Yeah,
bro.
exactly. I was like,
Freaking
what is
breaking through the
going on?
wall.
I love the idea that just because he's like, you can come to the water tower where it's safe. She's like, well, how do we know it's safe in here? And he's like, I've been living here for 15 years and she's never come around here. Like,
I love that.
what an assumption.
Yeah, I was expecting some kind of bit with him where he's like, "We worked out a deal," or because I like you're expecting some kind of justification to his confidence, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
just the
like
whole
she
like she
knows.
hasn't thus far.
Yeah, she knows not to come near here pretty much. It's just like, no, dude, you just never gave her a reason to. And like she fucking runs through. Oh man, that was wild too. Um and then I guess there is Justin Long's character, which funny
Yeah.
enough, this is the second horror movie that he has his eyes gouged out in.
Shout
First
out to
one,
freaking Jeepers
Jeepers
Creepers.
Creepers, yeah, old school. And then I guess
And then the monster,
the mother, I
the
guess.
mother,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, she shoots her in the head. That's right. And the movie just
Mhm.
ends. Um, not a
I
super
think that's
high
it.
body count.
I think less is more with this though. I don't know, like would you have wanted more?
Oh yeah, I'm always a big fan of more the merrier.
I feel like at that point though you'd have to write in like where would the extra deaths come from? Like the cops or
I
something who
mean,
are there to
yeah,
help
don't
out?
get
Like
me
what are
wrong.
you
You'd absolutely have to write them in, but like maybe it wouldn't be as organic, but I'd certainly enjoy it more. Anyway, I the part where the hobo chases her, I knew that guy was gonna like that was not what it seemed at the moment.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
know what
Me
I
too.
mean? In the moment, I was like, he's trying to
Get
warn
out of
her.
that house. I'm
Yeah,
like, that made it scarier for me. I
yeah,
feel like it's supposed to be falsely telegraphed where we think we're the smarter ones because we're thinking ahead. But
yeah.
then that's actually scarier knowing that a freaking hobo in the street is warning her to get out of the house. That's way scarier to me.
So yeah, the part where she escapes through the basement window, and
Yeah.
right before, and that hobo pulls her out, that was scary. That's the look that she gave afterwards. You know, like I almost got you. You know, and then
I
when
hate,
he's like,
yeah.
she ain't even the worst thing that's in that house. I was like, oh, he's still down there. I was like, he's still down there.
Exactly.
And then
That's
Justin Long
it's all
finds
setting
him.
up perfectly.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
and
And
then
even
he's
that, like even the reveal of that's terrifying because Justin Long finds
the
the
tapes.
that door, and then the mother won't go towards the door is so it's all. I think this movie prides itself or should pride itself on like subverting expectation and then over delivering because it's the idea of now okay, what scares the monster? Like that's so much worse and so terrifying. I think that works really well. How did you feel when speaking of Justin Long, how did you feel about the like that point where it switches and Justin Long becomes our main protagonist for that
You
bit?
know, um, I thought it was definitely a unique way of telling the story, and I appreciated that quite a lot. But moreover, it was also like it's like it's like The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
Where you do the whole first half with one person, then abruptly switches to another. It's
Yeah.
always jarring, but I thought though the story that they set up that they were telling was an interesting perspective. I hadn't seen a character like that be portrayed in a film like this
Yeah, right.
ever. I don't think anyone ever would, you know what I mean?
Because we're like, well, are we supposed to be sympathizing for the air quote, but rapist? We're not
Yeah,
100% sure
exactly.
at that point.
And
And then
like
the slow reveal.
yeah, unconvincingly. And then his whole arc is like, am I a good person that did something bad, or am I a bad person that's just doing what I normally do?
Mm-hmm.
And then my man just throws her off the fucking
That was gangster as crap, dude. I
and then she
love
dove
that.
off afterwards. That was really funny too.
Dude,
The
that really,
mother.
I'm not, that sincerely, I think that's a real beauty of this movie. I feel like this is probably I don't want to be hyperbolic, but it's probably the best example I've ever seen of just a sympathetic monster. Where, like, with the mother, I feel so awful for her because you see, like, this poor woman, because, like, you get the idea, I like that they don't spoon feed you, but with our main protagonist, with Tessa Thompson, you get that
Just
she
down with
came
Tessa
from
Thompson.
yeah, she got out of like a bad relationship or something. She was like blowing off whatever like ex-boyfriend or someone's phone calls, and you get the sense of love from the monster to her, where this monster, survives, but is willing to kill herself, like to put herself in harm's way to save her quote baby. That's really
She
like
was in that thing for. She was in that
sad to me.
basement for 2 weeks. Remember?
Yeah. Oh Jesus, that's something too. I really wish they would have clarified that a little more. And because like when I mean that's a unless this is a straight up ad for Mac or like Apple help pay the bills, Justin Long opens the laptop and it's at like 70%
Yeah,
after being just on for 2 weeks.
it's
I'm like, that's some
possible.
look at that. Apple, get that new like Mac that new Pro,
The new Pro. Um. So let me ask you this question: who do you think was the barbarian? Because I've been asking myself since I left the theater.
I don't know. I really didn't put too much stake at the name. I would probably argue
The
I don't know,
name
like,
is
what do
the
you
only thing I can't figure out.
I think that might have just been a misleading thing or something because they also they named the street name was like Barbie Street, like
Barbary.
Barbary Street, and it was an Airbnb. So Barbieri, like there's a bit there or something.
Mm.
I almost feel like the name is almost irrelevant. Like, where did you land on that? I really have not been able to pinpoint it.
I don't think it's irrelevant.
You don't think so?
I don't. I mean, unironically I do. Or ironically I do. Whereas like the other night we were like, who's the barbarian? And like we were like, we think maybe it's Justin Long because he's just kind of a piece of shit person. I was like, yeah, but what if it's the lady in the basement? Because she literally acts like a barbarian the entire movie. I was like, what if it's the serial killer?
What's the definition of barbarian? Like the official like definition
I don't know.
of barbarian.
I have no
Look it
idea.
up.
Let's see.
Barbarian definition. A member, okay, let's not go with ancient times. A member of community or tribe not belonging to the great civilization. I mean, sure. Today, the adjective
A woman?
barbaric is most commonly used to describe an act that is either brutal or cruel to the point of savagery or primitive or uncivilized.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe the rapist.
Maybe, but it could also be. I mean,
It could be Justin Long
I
as well.
guess they're
yeah.
both. I think, yeah, and now that we're talking about it, I think it's kind of fucked up how like Justin Long's character is like accused of raping someone, and like it's pretty much implied that he did in fact rape somebody.
Mhm.
But I find it very strange that he's watching the videos of that guy raping girls and he's like, you sick fuck. I was like, do you not understand what's going on here? Like, you did that too, you know?
Yeah, everyone they think differently, and everyone's the protagonist of their own story, and so
Exactly.
I almost feel bad for his character, the percentage amount, because he really does. He's unsure, like replaying it back, the events of the alleged rape. We can infer it did happen. He's like, okay, I'm a persistent dude, I didn't, his justification, I didn't literally grab her, but I kept kind of, needling and trying to be convincing and didn't take no for an answer. And at that point, it's like him realizing, like, did I rape or was I just super convincing? Like it's not as black and white as homeboy kidnapped these women,
Yeah.
put them in dog kennels. I think that might be a little bit of the moral or theme here is the whole like and the moral gray and how it isn't always black and white of I'm a barbarian. This is what a barbarian looks like is, freaking basement raper video camera guy. A barbarian can also be Justin Long, a nice he's done nice things. He's done good things. He went back for he went back and he saved old girl after he shot her and all that stuff. He's still at the end of the day a barbarian, which is why he gets his comeuppance at the very very end. So I'm realizing that as I'm saying it. So I think that really does add a lot of depth
That's what I'm saying.
to the thing. Evil
Who is
isn't
the
always the
barbarian?
extreme. We are the barbarians.
The only one who doesn't seem like a barbarian in this movie is Discount Emma Thompson. Tessa
Exactly.
Thompson.
She's the freaking MVP, which God bless her for
She
going
was great
back.
too, by the way. Let me look up her name right now. So
I tried looking at her IMDb credits. Nothing I immediately recognized. Everything that she was in that I kind of was familiar with, I couldn't recall her stuff. And she was in a lot of TV. She was in a
Georgina
ton.
Campbell.
Yeah,
Soup.
yeah. She was in that King Arthur movie nobody saw with Homeboy from Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, I like him.
I do like him. That's a
I
good
like
looking dude.
Sons
That's
of Anarchy too. It's a great show.
one of my favorite shows.
It's awesome.
That Homeboy needs to be freaking Green Arrow, but that'll never happen.
Feet. They're dragging their feet.
I literally don't recognize anything else that she was in.
Yeah. Either way, though, she's great in this movie.
She was great.
And hopefully this is a springboard to getting bigger stuff.
Hey, man, Tessa Thompson can't be in everything.
Exactly. Can't now, but she can be, though. Now she can.
Yeah.
Because her clone has escaped the island, and it is coming for her.
Did you recognize because I didn't afterwards, again, I went so blind to that immediately afterwards in my car after the theater. I'm like, who freaking directed this? Because it was the writer and director. Did you recognize the guy?
I don't know his name, but I do know he's from Whitest Kids You Know, right?
He's from the Whitest freaking Kids You Know. And that made me so happy. I literally did a fist pump in my car.
The YouTube
where I'm like,
to Hollywood
good on
pipeline is still a viable option. You know what I mean?
God bless that dude, because Whitest Kids You Know is one of my favorite things in this world. And so I'm always happy whenever those dudes still get work, especially because Homeboy died from Whitest Kids You Know, the air quote leader of it. He died like a year or two ago.
And
so I'm really happy
one
that
of
he's
the other
getting
dudes,
out.
right?
Mm-hmm. He usually plays a chick. He's not the little shrimpy one. There's like the shrimpier guy and kind of pudgier dude. He usually plays a woman. He played the teacher, if you remember any of those bits. Like the bit where they're doing the whole like, who do you think's mom just died in a car crash? Anyone? Like, who, for a sucker, who wants to guess whose parent died in a car crash?
Yeah.
It's that guy. Good on him. I'm loving this bit now where I think Jordan Peele really paved the way for this idea that just, you don't have to pigeonhole yourself in your air quote genre. Just because you're an incredible comedian does not mean you can't be an outstanding horror director.
Yeah. Sketch comedy leads to horror directing now, and it's incredible.
I'm all about that polarity. I think Vince Gilligan from Breaking Bad believes that's why he always casted guys like Bill Burr and Homeboy. He played Landslide or whatever and Always Sunny. He casted comedians in his like Breaking Bad shows and stuff because he believes that if you can do comedy, you can do drama and horror as well because you instinctually understand that timing of people.
Got it.
So I think that if you're really good at comedy, then you can also be really good at horror.
Interesting. Well, I mean, definitely proves it here because Barbarian gets a strong recommendation from me. 8.5 out of 10, like I said. Anything else that we got to cover for this, or I think we're good? I don't think there's anything too much to this.
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
People are loving this as well. It's 92% critic on Rotten Tomatoes, 71% audience. That's some stuff.
You know what? That makes sense because I guarantee you there are some people who are expecting one thing and got something completely different when they saw this movie, and that probably it jolted their expectations. We'll just say, it knocked them off balance. Whereas me, I enjoyed being knocked off balance, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
I legit, hand to God, because again, I went in with zero information. I thought when they introduced Justin Long, I'm like, oh, this is just an anthology movie. The first story was the Airbnb. I'm like, that's dope. Because I'm like, okay, we're in LA. We're nowhere near Detroit. We haven't mentioned Detroit. We haven't mentioned the house. And then when they eventually got to the house, I was wondering, oh, is this just another story around this house that we're coming around? And then they directly tied them in. And I'm like, oh, that was an interesting break we just had. That's really good. But I think the strength of this movie for sure is going to be because it's a smaller budget movie as well. It's a $10 million budget and it's made over 24, I think probably at this point, 25 million already in second week in this smaller movie. This is a word of mouth movie. This is the movie that its entire, the bloodline of this movie, the way it's going to be seen and heard is just people recommending it and shoving it down their friends' throats.
Yeah,
especially with the Halloween season.
Putting it
definitely
on
check it out
on a Halloween party or something. Something
100%.
Like that.
I will be buying this on whenever it comes out, hopefully in like a 4K or Steelbook or something, because this is one of the more original horror movies I've seen in a few years.
Definitely something I'll watch on the plane for sure. So
100%.
All right. Everyone, that was AG from Genre Geeks. I am PAK. Once again, you can find Prestoniki on any social media at prestoniki.tv. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Yeah. Yeah, next week. Yeah, I don't think you'll be here, but
Probably not, but it's all good. I'll be here in spirit. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, at this point. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.